Okay, did it disappoint or did it wow me? Honestly, neither, but I still had a good time reading this. This is 19 Steps by Millie Bobby Brown. Yes, that Millie Bobby Brown in collaboration with Kathleen McGurl. So we're going to chat about this. Stick with me. Hey, friends, welcome back. This is Seaside Reads with Arlene. I'm so glad you're spending time with me today. If this is your first time stumbling upon this page, I like to do one on one book notes conversations with you guys. And today we have 19 Steps by Millie Bobby Brown and Kathleen McGurl. Girl, right? Okay, I hope so. I was very curious about this. Do not gravitate to celebrity written novels. It's just never really been my thing, but it was Millie Bobby Brown. So I was super, super curious. And if you're unfamiliar and not a Stranger Things fan, yes, that's her. This was her debut novel. And my understanding, this is based on her own family history stories that she heard growing up from her Nana. I'm trying to like recall back on interviews that I saw after I read the novel because I don't like to spoil things for myself and I don't even read reviews prior to picking up a novel. I like to make my own decisions. This is based on World War II, but it's a little known, very niche type of story. So based on true events. Where the raids were happening, the air raids were happening over London. So it was very specific story, and I don't want to give too much away. I will put a little spoiler at the end if you want to hear a little bit more of my thoughts on that part. So if you want to hear a little bit more of that, if you're not familiar with what this story, the 19 Steps, means, then I'll give you a little bit more at the end. But you'll have a warning. You'll have a warning. So this is based on, she fictionalized all the characters. At first, I thought that it was based on her grandmother and that Nellie was her grandmother. And I was like, girl, you did what? On certain parts. But, I didn't agree with certain decisions. But then I realized this was not really her actual Nana's story. It was fictionalized. So I was like, okay, all right, I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you because some decisions that she made, I was a little like, that was your best friend. That's all I was happy to hear that the characters were fictionalized and the storylines was fictionalized because I was like, you're not at the what, and I was just not happy with certain decisions. But 19 Steps, it has a bit of warmth. It has the romantic element to it, but it's a clean romance. I don't remember anything explicit at all. So I wouldn't hesitate to give this to one of my teens. Would they be interested in this story? I don't think so. I don't think there's enough action and things going on for them to keep them engaged. But for an adult reader, is definitely gives you enough of that comfort type of read. But also, like if you're in the mood for a little bit of sadness, it's going to give you that. I do know that at certain points, I did get a little bit choked up. So it did what it was meant to do. Um, can it could it have been developed more with the characters? And I mean, the characters were complex, but I think the layers were not developed as much as I would have liked. However, I was pretty happy with the read overall. And this is a debut novel, and of course, also in a collaboration. So I can't even imagine how that affects the writing process when there's more than one heads, in the mix, besides obviously the editor. But I was pretty happy with this. So this is in the 40s, obviously, because I said it was World War II. So it's 1942 in London. And London is under constant threats with the air raids. Underground shelters that when the alarm sounds, that's where everybody runs to. So what I will say is that in the shelters, in her job, she was an assistant. I read this 2 months ago. I was trying to keep doing these one book review at a time things at a like shortly after I read it, so everything would be fresh in my mind. Obviously I always take notes and things and annotations, but that didn't happen with this title. But I still wanted to share about this. She was working, let's see, she was working for, she was an assistant to the mayor, so she was privy to a lot of information about like how things were being handled in emergency situations with the air raids. And she also like meets this guy Ray. She goes to these pubs at night and she meets this guy Ray, which was an American soldier. There's a little bit of a twist in not there. Like you go into the story and everything is super predictable. Now, if you are familiar with this specific historical event that this was inspired by, you already know what's going to happen, but you don't know how catastrophic it's going to be. In anybody's synopsis, they're already going to mention that. I feel like a lot of people already mentioned that. However, you don't really know how is going to unravel as you're meeting all these different characters. And there weren't too many people to keep track of, which I really appreciated, especially with a historical fiction. A lot of times authors can like really have a lot of fun just throwing 1,000 characters at you. So when you're trying to learn about a specific point of history or whatever the novel is inspired by, it's nice to be able to like focus on the plot and not too many characters in the mix. I mean, I'll take it either way. It's fine. However, so she was privy to a lot of like internal information of what was going on with safety wise with these underground shelters. So she has a little sister, she has her family, she has other extended family, and they're all, you know, trying to navigate the daily life of this. She has a best friend, which is that's all I'll say. She has a best friend, and there's a little bit of feelings, maybe a little triangle there, and there's things that develop. And I actually appreciated that little side story in it and not it being super the main plot, which is how I like my romance. Now, I'm not gonna lie, lately I have been reading a lot of contemporary romance novels. I don't know what has happened to me. Maybe it's perimenopause. I don't know. But I have been enjoying them, depending on the writer, of course, and how they treat all the different events. So I like it when it's just interwoven into the story and it's not just the main plot that really like grabs me, because then I have more to hold on to. That's just me. Does it mean that I won't read like something that's just the main plot? No, obviously I have been doing that. I did order this a used copy because I wanted the original cover. This is the first edition cover, and I wanted this one. I didn't want the new one with the people on it. I just wanted the original cover. So for her debut novel, did it disappoint? I don't feel like it disappointed. Obviously, again, there is some debut novelists that really wow me, and I don't know anything about the ghostwriter Kathleen McGurl, and she does get credit. So when I say ghostwriter, what I researched initially was that she worked with a ghostwriter. I thought she originally, when I picked this up, that she was the sole author, but that's not the case. She does get credit in the nameplate page. So I don't know anything if this was her first novel. Probably not. But I think the story was told well. It was easy to follow. It was interesting enough to keep me locked in. Did it keep me like, oh my gosh, like at the end of my seat? No, it didn't. But I was entertained and I had a good time with it. The final moments, the last quarter of the book, this is where I will say, here's your spoiler warning. If you do not wish to go any further, I'll see you next time for another book review. But if you'd like to stick around, here's your spoiler warning. The 19 steps. At first, I had no idea what this was about. The synopsis does not really give away what the 19 steps means. It's just a catastrophic event. So one of the underground shelters was 19 Steps Down. I felt like that part was very palpable. I love how she gave the title that, and because it also kept you wondering what are the 19 steps, what happens. So that part made me feel like I was just waiting for that discovery of like what's going to happen in 19 steps, or is it like, what does it really mean. And so I think that was a very smart idea to name the book that, and then not to tell you anything about it. Although there's a lot of reviewers that are giving that away, and I'll make sure that in my written review I will not. It was gut wrenching, especially to something that was could have been prevented. And something that was like, really, like, people don't die in war, but you're gonna die back home, in a shelter that's supposed to keep you safe. So, and then that made me read about the actual event even more, because that's what I do, and that's probably why historical fiction will probably always be my number one genre. Her love triangle with her best friend that was basically in love with her, last quarter of the book is what really like made this book that, what, I want to talk about it, because I don't do a video on every book I read. If I did, like, we can't keep up with that pace, because I consume books fairly quickly. In certain seasons I consume them quickly, so we can't keep up with that pace, so I only talk about certain ones. The last quarter of the book is what really like did me in. I think that was like the smart, the nice hook in the twist with the love triangle and what happens with those relationships. I have to say, I was pissed. I was pissed at the outcome, but then at the end I was like, you know what, all right, it was right. It was the right decision. It was the right decision. So I was ready to be mad at this book. I really was. I was ready. And at the time, I thought it was her real Nana doing this stuff. I thought it was her real one. And I was like, how could you? How could you? I was mad at her. I've never met her. I was mad. But then I found out it was fictionalized. At the end, I was satisfied with the decision, even though at the time I was pissed off. So she did accomplish to make me feel things. So I was happy about that. I mean, I think it's an enjoyable read. I think it's worth a borrow, unless you're like, you must have the physical copy. I think is definitely worth the borrow. We're a Stranger Things family fan here, so I saw Millie Bobby Brown. I was like, you know what? I'm super curious. I never really give into like celebrity written novels unless, I don't know, whatever special circumstance, but this was one of them, so I'm happy about it. All right, so 19 Steps by Millie Bobby Brown and Kathleen McGurl. If you read it, let me know. And this copy, look at the edges. Can you see the edges? I love the decal edges. It's so cool. Anyways, I know some people like hate that, but I love it because it just gives me old book feel, and I'm all about that. Yeah. Anyways, if you want this copy, I don't think you can actually like order this copy now and get this one. So you kind of have to source it elsewhere, unless you're in the UK or something. Because like, this may be the UK cover. I don't know. I don't even know. I just knew that I wanted this one. All for today. Thank you for sticking with me. Let me know in the comments your thoughts. If this is something you would pick up, or maybe your teens would enjoy reading. And if you read it, tell me your thoughts. And if you know what scenes I'm talking about, let me know down below. All right. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye. Mm-hmm.